My name is Christy Van Giersberg. I'm the Director of Bells here at Camarillo United Methodist Church, and I'd like to welcome you to our annual Bell Choir Concert. Well, it was annual until 2020 happened, the year we will never forget. Like pretty much everything else, our church and our bell choirs were suddenly and unexpectedly stopped last March when the pandemic hit, and we were unable to do our 2020 Bell Choir Concert. But we are thrilled to be back in 2021. After a very rough year, things are finally starting to come back to life, although with some modifications. As you have noticed, we pre-recorded our concert this year, and although we will miss seeing your smiling faces and hearing your applause, we hope you enjoy the concert just as much from the comfort of your own homes. And please feel free to invite friends and family to watch because it'll be available on our church's website for the foreseeable future. So thank you for being with us for this rather unconventional concert. The Cherub Chimes, the youngest of our 5 choirs, kicked off our concert this year with one of my favorites, This Little Light of Mine. Yeah, that's it, This Little Light of Mine. When the pandemic hit, this was the only choir that was able to meet because we met on Zoom. Every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m., we would tune in and we would tell stories, sing songs, play games, and play improvised instruments that we could find around our houses. And it was pretty fun. Then in September, we were cleared to come back in person, outdoors, masked and socially distanced, and that was even more fun. So we continued our musical journey, learning about the basics of music, and this has been a really fun group to work with. You may notice from our first recording to our second that there's about half as many kids. And unfortunately, the day we recorded the second song, we had several kids out sick and one family that was out of town. So we're sorry they weren't able to be with us. But we are happy to be able to present our next song, which is I've Got the Joy. You probably remember it from church camp or Sunday school when you were a kid. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Second verse, I've got the love of Jesus. And that third tongue-twisting verse, I've got the peace that passeth understanding, which I could never say when I was a kid. But did you know there are 2 more verses? Yep, I found some more. How about this one? I've got the happy hope that heckles heathens down in my heart. Or I've got the far-out faith that freaks out farmers down in my heart. I think we'll skip those 2. This is the Cherub Chimes with their version of I've Got the Joy. Three. I got the joy, 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 down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I've got the joy, 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 down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart to stay. I've got the love, 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 down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I've got the As I have said, back in March, we had to stop playing together, and we weren't able to get together and practice until September. So that's 6 months, a half a year, without being able to play music together. It was pretty rough. In September, we were cleared to get together to rehearse again, but with some modifications. We had to be in smaller groups, 6 feet apart, and masked. So the 2 pieces you just heard were examples of our small ensembles that played last fall. The first one was our women's quartet, who played I Sing the Almighty Power of God, and the second quartet did one of my favorite spirituals, Wade in the Water. Later in the fall, we were approved to play as a full bell choir, and we were very excited. The joy of playing in a 5-octave choir is that you get the full range of notes. You get those nice, big, powerful, low bells that you don't get when you're doing small group work. Our next hymn is God of Grace and God of Glory, and it really showcases our bass bells very well. This hymn was written back in the 1930s by Harry Fosdick, who was a chaplain during World War I. He wrote this piece between World War I and World War II during the Great Depression. And the lyrics were a way of helping people through this very difficult time. For example, one of the verses was, Lo, the hosts of evil run us. Scorn thy Christ, assail thy ways. From the fears that long have bound us, free our hearts to faith and praise. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the living of these days. I think it's a message that speaks to us just as well today as our country is currently just coming out of another very difficult time. We are joined on this song by our friend and very experienced and wonderful trumpeter, John Mcquilkin. This is God of Grace, God of Glory. That was the Chapel Bells playing All Glory, Laud, and Honor, a song we recorded for our Palm Sunday service. This year, the Chapel Bells and the Youth Bells were organized by family group instead of by age in order to limit exposure. So that meant that both choirs had either 3rd or 4th graders along with 8th graders in their group. So they had beginning players with some fairly advanced players, which was a little challenging at times, but I think we made it work. This next song that we're playing really needs no introduction. You probably know it best as Ode to Joy or Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. It's taken from the 9th Symphony of Beethoven, his last symphony that he composed when he was almost completely deaf. Beethoven, one of the greatest composers who ever lived, started hearing a buzzing in his ear when he was 26 years old. And by the time he was 40, he could hear almost nothing. So how did he record such beautiful music? Because most of his most famous music was written late in his life. Well, historians say that early on he would use what was called an ear horn, which was like a cone-shaped device that he stuck in his ear to amplify the sound. His housekeeper said that he used to stick a stick between his teeth and bite down on it in order to feel the vibrations of the music. And his neighbors said that when he played the piano, he pounded on it so hard to try to hear it that he destroyed all of his pianos. In the end, none of those things worked, but he developed an ability to hear the music perfectly in his head, and then he just wrote it down. This is Ode to Joy. That was another of our handball ensemble pieces from last fall, Here I Am to Worship, which is an example of contemporary Christian praise and worship music, which has become very popular in churches these days. That particular song was written by Tim Hughes, and he wrote it after reading Philippians 2. So if you want to know what it's about, you can look that up in your Bible. Now the adult bells will be joining us and sharing a very hauntingly beautiful spiritual, I Want Jesus to Walk With Me. Like many spirituals, the origins of this song are unknown, but we do know that it is a folk song that expresses lament over the trials of everyday life and a statement of assurance that in spite of how tough our lives can be, Jesus will be there to walk with us. You may remember the words to this song, "In my trials, Lord, walk with me. In my sorrow, Lord, walk with me. When my heart is aching, Lord, walk with me." African American slaves especially found great comfort and encouragement in believing that this life was only a journey. It was just a passing through place to somewhere better. And as they passed through this very difficult life, their desire was that they not walk alone, but that Jesus be with them. During the past year, I think many of us needed that assurance that we weren't alone, even though we felt very isolated. We are joined on this beautiful song by Chahun, the very talented violinist who is a member of our Korean congregation. This is I Want Jesus to Walk With Me. You just heard What Wondrous Love Is This, and American Spiritual played for you by the Youth Bells. The text to this song was written back in the early 1800s, and like was common in those days, they would take the words and they would put them to a popular tune that everybody knew. In this case, they used the tune called The Ballad of Captain Kidd, which told the story of a pirate, William Kidd, which I always thought was kind of funny. There was this beautiful hymn about God's love and the awe of God, and it's really a pirate song. The next song we're going to be doing for you is probably best known as the theme song for a children's television show called The Friendly Giant. I wonder how many of you remember that one. It ran on Canadian television for 30 years, from the 1950s to the 1980s, and in the opening sequence, a camera would zoom down and show this quaint little village as a voice talked about the news of the village. Then the camera would stop on a big boot, and the voice would say, "Look up, look way up," and the camera would pan up to the smiling face of Friendly the Giant. And while this tune was playing on the harp and the recorder, the drawbridge of the castle would lower, and the children would be welcome to come into the castle for adventures. And I always loved that as a kid. It was pretty low tech, but very charming, just like this tune. This is Early One Morning. was one of our handbell ensembles that played for our outdoor service earlier this year. It's a medley of old gospel tunes. I wonder how many you recognized. We started with Give Me That Old Time Religion, then Since Jesus Came Into My Heart, Sunshine in My Soul, I Love to Tell the Story, and On Jordan's Stormy Banks. I love that old gospel music, don't you? It's such a fun part of our Christian musical heritage. Well, now it's time for a big change of pace from that old time religion to the Banana Boat song. We like to have fun on these concerts, and this song was definitely fun to learn and fun to play. You may remember it best as Deo, performed by Harry Belafonte back in the 1950s when calypso music was all the rage. It is told from the perspective of a dock worker who works all night loading bananas onto a boat, and when dawn comes, they wait for the tallyman to come count their bananas so they can get paid and go home. Harry Belafonte first sang this song on TV on The Muppet Show, and I don't know about you, but that's where I learned it. To give this song a little extra Jamaican flavor, we are joined by Luvi Avendano and Keiko Wilson on percussion. This is the Banana Boat song. I'd like to introduce you to the oldest and the most advanced of our children and youth bell choirs. This is the Young Adult Bells. These musicians are in high school, college, and beyond in some cases. Some of them started with me back in Cherub Chimes, and I've had the honor of watching them grow both as musicians and as humans. I was a little short-handed this spring because I lost some kids due to graduation, so I put a call in to the CUMC grads, and several of them graciously agreed to come back and help out. So we have with us tonight Luke Van Giersberg, who was bribed into coming back by me agreeing to do his laundry and feed him dinner. He is currently a junior at California Lutheran University. Ethan Skeens just finished up at Moorpark College and will be heading to Cal State Stanislaus in the fall. James Burgoyne has graduated from Oxnard College Fire Academy. He's gone through EMT training, and now he's trained to become a paramedic. And last but not least, we have Holly King Galbraith, who graduated from college, got her teaching certificate, got married this past winter, and will now be moving to Utah to start her teaching career. So I am very, very thankful to them for coming back and helping us out this spring. The song you just heard needs no introduction, I'm sure. It was Let It Be by the Beatles. It was written by Paul McCartney, sung by Paul McCartney, during a time that things were pretty tense with the Beatles. It was just before they broke up. There was a lot of stress within the band. And Paul had a dream one night, and his mother, who had been dead for many years, appeared to him and comforted him and told him to let it be. And the rest is history. The song we're going to be doing for you now is called The Best of John Williams. It's one of our favorites. What do you say about John Williams? He's probably the best movie music composer that ever lived. He's probably the greatest composer of our generation in general. He's won 25 Grammy Awards and 5 Academy Awards, but he's been nominated 52 times for Academy Awards. The only person that has more nominations than that is Walt Disney. So the song we're going to be doing to you, the piece we're going to be playing for you now, rather, is a medley of songs from his different movies. The first one you'll hear is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's only 5 notes long, so don't miss it. It's followed by the Olympic Theme and Fanfare, which John wrote for the 1984 Olympics, which took place right here in Southern California, in Los Angeles. And that's followed by several songs from the Star Wars trilogy. First, we have the Darth Vader's theme, which in the original trilogy is played whenever Darth Vader enters. In the prequels, it's played to foreshadow Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. Then we have the fun little Cantina Band song from the original Star Wars. And last but not least, we have the Star Wars theme, which was so popular in the 1970s that it actually made it onto the Top 100 Pop chart. So this has been a fun and challenging piece to play. We hope you enjoy it. Be sure to watch, especially in the back row, James playing all those big bells. This is the best of John Williams. That was the Adult Bells with a tender little song called Celtic Grace. It's based on a folk song called Slain, which you may know better as Be Thou My Vision. This has always been one of my favorite hymns because I like the Irish sound to it. And I especially like this arrangement because it utilizes a technique called the singing bell technique. You may have noticed that some of the ringers had a stick or dowel in their hand and they rubbed the rim of their bell with it in a circular motion to make the bell vibrate. It's supposed to be kind of like the Tibetan singing bowls, if you've heard of those. They've been around for centuries and are supposed to foster healing and relaxation. So we hope you're feeling very relaxed after that last number. Well, it is now time for the very last song of our 2021 concert. We thank you very much for listening, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook or here in our sanctuary. We're very grateful to be back together and to be able to do what we love, play music. And we're very grateful to Camarillo United Methodist Church, our church community, who has been so supportive all these years. Thanks for being with us, even though it was a very unusual format. We hope to be back live and in person next year, so we hope you'll plan to be with us. Our last song, Just a Closer Walk with Thee, is a very famous gospel song, often associated with traditional New Orleans jazz funerals. When played at a jazz funeral, this song is typically played in a slow and mournful way as the deceased is brought out of the church and into the hearse. After the funeral is over, the tempo picks up and the celebration of life begins. The music is often played by a brass band, and the instruments take turns doing the melody or improvising over the melody. We have our own one-woman jazz band here with us tonight, our favorite jazz clarinetist, Emily Vanneman. This is kind of her signature song, and we are always happy when we are able to showcase her. This is Just a Closer Walk with Thee.